Before the red carpets, Dior gowns, and billion-dollar Marvel contracts, Florence Pugh was just a little girl with a chronic cough and oversized dreams in Oxford, England. Born on January 3, 1996, into a family of artists, restaurateurs, and theatrical rebels, Florence was never meant to be ordinary. Her father, Clinton Pugh, ran restaurants so eccentric they were basically performance art. Her mother, Deborah, was a dancer-turned-dance teacher whose energy could melt stone. But from the moment Florence let out her first cry, something felt cinematic. Her early years weren't glamorous. She suffered from tracheomalacia, a condition that left her breathless, wheezy, and hospital-bound more often than any child should be. But where others saw fragility, Florence saw fire. By age 6, she wasn't just pretending to be other people, she was embodying them. Her voice, her eyes, her presence. They all seemed rehearsed by fate. She performed at school not just because it was fun, but because it felt necessary, like breathing, like war. Florence hated the rigid English school system. She rebelled against its uniformity and its stale standards. While other children memorized textbooks, Florence staged kitchen table performances and mocked authority with Shakespearean flair. Her teachers didn't know what to make of her. One minute she'd be the class clown, the next she'd deliver a soliloquy so haunting it gave you goosebumps. She wasn't just precocious, she was disruptive. The system tried to cage her, but she kept slipping through the bars. Behind the curtain, though, things were less golden. Her health issues loomed like a shadow. Her siblings, Arabella, a future actress and model, Rafaela, and Toby Sebastian, an actor and musician, were carving paths of their own, but Florence felt the ache of invisibility. She wasn't the oldest, she wasn't the quietest, and she wasn't the healthiest. She had to scream to be heard, and so she did, loudly, unapologetically, and with increasing force. It wasn't an agent or drama school that kick-started Florence's career, it was YouTube, using the alias Flossie Rose. She uploaded covers of soulful pop songs with haunting depth. People noticed, not millions but enough. That raw, smoky voice didn't belong to a teenager, it belonged to a star in waiting. Then came The Falling, the 2014 film that would launch Florence Pugh into the cinematic stratosphere. She was just 17 when she auditioned for the role of Abby Mortimer opposite Game of Thrones star Maisie Williams. She didn't just get the part, she stole the movie. Critics raved, calling her mesmerizing, electric, unforgettable. But behind that breakout role was a teenage girl grappling with imposter syndrome, the toxic undercurrents of early fame, and a newfound hunger for creative control. The industry started whispering her name in rooms she wasn't even in, but whispers are double-edged. Florence quickly learned that Hollywood doesn't reward power, it punishes it. Her next film, Studio City, was meant to be her American crossover, but by the time it hit the cutting room, producers had stripped her performance bare. They didn't like her voice, her weight, her choices. They tried to remold her. Florence was furious. She had tasted the poison early. She realized the industry loved fresh faces but loathed fresh ideas. That experience almost broke her. Almost. Instead, it became fuel. She returned to England like a warrior in retreat. And when she emerged again, she wasn't asking for permission anymore. 2016's Lady Macbeth wasn't just a film. It was a middle finger to every exec who told Florence how to play pretty. As Catherine, a young bride trapped in a loveless marriage, she seethed with quiet rage, exploded with unholy fury, and killed, literally and metaphorically, for freedom. Critics lost their minds. Florence Pugh delivers a star-making performance, The Guardian declared. But stardom wasn't enough. Florence wanted impact. The role showed the world what she was capable of, but it also revealed something else: her appetite for risk. This wasn't an actress who played safe. This was a storm in silk, and storms don't apologize. Hollywood came calling again, this time more carefully. But Florence had changed. She wasn't the eager teen anymore. She was wary, strategic. She didn't want roles that required her to smile and say thank you. She wanted blood, chaos, love, madness. She wanted scripts that made her heart race. By 2018, she was picking roles that felt like war zones. Outlaw King, The Commuter, and Malevolent tested her range, but none of them fully captured her fury. Something bigger was coming, a role that would turn her into folklore, and that role would come wrapped in white linen, screams, and fire. It was 2019, and the sun never set in Ari Aster's psychedelic hellscape. Midsommar wasn't supposed to make Florence Pugh a global icon. It was supposed to be another niche horror film, but when she stepped into the role of Dani, a grief-stricken girlfriend dragged into a Swedish pagan cult, Florence didn't just act, she transcended. What no one knew was that behind that performance was real heartbreak. Just days before filming began, Florence lost someone close to her. The grief you saw on screen? That was real. Her cries in the film's now iconic opening sequence were not just acting, they were therapy. Art bled into life. Florence wasn't pretending, she was processing. Critics and fans alike were stunned. The New Yorker called her performance a symphony of sorrow, while Vogue called her the screen queen of a new generation. But Florence hated labels. She didn't want to be Hollywood's new anything, she wanted to be the first Florence. Suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of her. Directors, studios, fashion houses. Instagram went wild over her every move, from her freckles to her food posts. She didn't care about perfecting her image, she cared about keeping it real. In an industry built on illusion, Florence was raw truth. But truth is dangerous. Florence found herself walking a tightrope, balancing between authenticity and the pressure to perform a version of herself for public consumption. She started to retreat, not from the work, but from the machine. Interviews became strategic. Social media posts more curated. The cult of Florence was growing, and she wasn't entirely sure she liked it. Then came him, Zach Braff, a 21-year age gap, a former Scrubs star turned indie filmmaker. When Florence and Zach went public with their relationship, the internet melted. Comments flooded in, some supportive, many cruel. Florence clapped back, hard. "I do not need you to tell me who I should and should not love," she said in a video that went viral overnight. Her voice trembled, but her message was razor sharp. She wasn't just fighting for her relationship, she was fighting for her agency. But behind the defiance, insiders say, the criticism stung. Florence had always been the industry's darling. Now she was a target. 2019 wasn't done with her yet. Greta Gerwig came calling with Little Women, casting Florence as Amy March, the brat-turned-genius no one had ever really understood. Florence redefined the role, turning Amy into the emotional linchpin of the film. Oscar buzz swirled. When the nominations dropped, there it was, Florence Pugh, Best Supporting Actress. At 24. A dream? Yes, but dreams come with shadows. Behind the scenes, Florence was exhausted. Press tours, interviews, promotion, red carpet politics, fashion scrutiny, social media noise. Her ascent was meteoric. But meteors burn hot and fast. And just when things were calming, Marvel called. She wasn't going to be just another superhero. She was going to be the new Black Widow. Yelena Belova, sarcastic, deadly, vulnerable. Florence dove in. But make no mistake, this wasn't a cash grab. She trained like a soldier, fought like a warrior. She made the character hers, rewrote lines, reshaped scenes. By the time Black Widow hit screens in 2021, audiences were obsessed. But Marvel doesn't just give you fame, it gives you a machine. Endless press, NDA-filled silence. Florence found herself missing the chaos of Midsommar, the blood, the tears, the independence. Enter, Don't Worry Darling, Olivia Wilde's next big project. Florence would star alongside Harry Styles. It was supposed to be a feminist thriller, a step forward Wives for Gen Z, but almost immediately, rumors of tension began. Olivia was reportedly dating Harry. Shia LaBeouf was fired, or left, depending on who you asked. Florence? Silent, too silent. Insiders whispered Florence was doing all the heavy lifting. Olivia was distracted. The crew? Divided. When the trailer dropped, Florence barely posted about it. The drama exploded. The 2022 Venice Film Festival should have been triumphant, but it became a circus. Florence skipped the press conference, arrived late, didn't make eye contact with Olivia Wilde. The internet noticed everything. When Harry Styles allegedly spit on co-star Chris Pine during the screening, now infamously dubbed Spigate, the chaos was complete. Florence, meanwhile, strutted down Venice in Valentino, Aperol spritz in hand, unbothered and radiant. It was a masterclass in passive resistance. She never said a word, but the silence screamed. Amid the film's chaos, Florence and Zach Braff quietly broke up. No statements, no tabloid leaks, just quiet sadness. She would later confirm it happened a while ago, but insiders say it hit her hard. Then came the haircut, the bleached eyebrows, the sheer Valentino gown that broke the internet. Florence was transforming again, rebirthing, stronger, louder, alone. She wasn't a starlet. She was a phoenix. Fresh off the firestorm of Don't Worry Darling, Florence didn't retreat, she expanded. Her name was now on every director's wish list. And when Denis Villeneuve announced Dune, Part 2, insiders whispered the same name, Pugh. Florence wasn't just stepping into a role, she was stepping into an empire. As Princess Irulan, a cunning political chess piece in a sand-swept universe, Florence brought poise, venom, and vulnerability. But don't be fooled, it wasn't just another blockbuster gig. Florence had studied the first film, dissected Villeneuve's style, and pushed to craft a version of Irulan that was more than a pawn. She wanted complexity, layers, a woman who smiled with a dagger in her teeth. And while the media focused on her costumes and co-stars, Florence was building something quieter, credibility, serious, Oscar-chasing credibility. With the awards circuit heating up, whispers of her moment filled every room. And for once, Florence didn't have to fight to be seen. The industry was finally watching her the way she always deserved. Let's not pretend Florence doesn't know how to control a narrative. The 2022 Valentino Haute Couture show in Rome wasn't just a fashion moment. It was a declaration of war. That sheer pink tulle gown, nipples visible, jawline sharp, hair slicked back, was Florence telling the world, I will not shrink for your comfort. Cue the outrage. Conservative corners of the internet exploded. Indecent. Inappropriate. Attention-seeking. But Florence didn't flinch. In a now viral Instagram post, she wrote, I've lived in my body for a long time. I'm fully aware of my breast size and not scared of it. Mic dropped. Fashion critics called it iconic. Feminist circles cheered. And the industry? They realized Florence wasn't just a muse, she was a movement. By 2023, Florence was more than an actress. She was the internet's cool big sister, Gen Z's poster girl, fashion's wildcard. But her real power? Her people. Her inner circle became a subject of fascination. Actors, musicians, stylists, models. Each Instagram story, each tagged selfie was dissected like ancient scripture. Florence curated her friendships like a gallery, eclectic, unpretentious, and fiercely loyal. But make no mistake, she knew how to vanish. Unlike other celebs constantly parading their lives, Florence disappeared when it mattered. No paparazzi leaks, no tabloid scandals, just occasional flashes, a laugh in Paris, a protest in London, a dinner in New York. She wasn't avoiding fame, she was mastering it. Behind the glam, though, Florence was getting tired, not of acting, but of the noise, the machine, the meetings about branding, the publicists telling her to be softer on Instagram, the endless demands for content. Privately, she started pulling back. Fewer interviews, more time in London. She started writing scripts, songs, stories. She told friends she was thinking about directing. She wanted control, not applause. Those close to her saw the change. She's always been fearless, one stylist whispered. But now she's dangerous. She knows her worth. And then came the role she couldn't resist, a biopic. But not just any biopic. She was asked to play a young singer-songwriter loosely inspired by herself, raw, gifted, misunderstood. The script was a mirror. She hesitated. Was it narcissistic? Too close to home? Too exposing? In the end, she said yes. The film, still untitled, is in pre-production. Insiders say it's one of her most vulnerable performances yet. Florence won't just act, she'll sing, write, and produce. It's her power play, her pivot, her next reinvention. Post-BRAF, Florence's love life became a media playground, linked to co-stars, musicians, even a European royal. Allegedly, Florence stayed silent, but her Instagram told a story. Late-night guitar solos, melancholic captions, cryptic poems. Friends say she was healing, others say she was hiding. What's certain is this: Florence learned to weaponize mystery. Where other celebs overshared, Florence curated the silence. Then came The Wonder, a Netflix psychological drama set in 19th century Ireland. Florence played a nurse investigating a fasting girl who claimed divine sustenance. Dark, dense, daring. Critics praised her restraint. The film didn't light up charts, but it showed Hollywood something vital. Florence could carry heavy prestige without pyrotechnics. No screams, no blood, just eyes full of secrets. She called the role a reminder that women don't have to shout to shake the world. And if that wasn't a message to Hollywood, nothing was. When Florence walked the 2023 Met Gala carpet with a shaved head and a white Valentino gown that floated like smoke, The internet combusted. Divine. Some whispered. Defiant. Said others. But the truth was quieter. Florence had shaved her head for a film, but she kept it bald because she felt free. She had stopped performing for the male gaze, stopped filtering her femininity through beauty standards. She was sculpting a new archetype, the beautiful rebel, the vulnerable warrior. That night, she posted a midnight story, her in a hotel robe, holding a glass of whiskey, Led Zeppelin playing softly, no caption, just vibe. But fans saw it clearly. She was shedding another layer. In a move that raised eyebrows and turned heads, Florence signed on to play a forgotten royal, Queen Caroline Matilda, a British-born queen banished from Denmark after a scandalous affair in the 1700s. A period drama, but not a safe one. The story was sex, scandal, betrayal, and Florence? She was magnetic, raw, unapologetically sensual. On set, whispers flew of on-screen chemistry so intense that editors had to cut it down to meet rating standards. Florence didn't flinch. She called it the most liberated I've felt in costume, not corseted, but unleashed. Then came the album, secretly recorded in between shoots, produced with an indie darling from Bristol, haunting, intimate. Think Phoebe Bridgers meets Cat Power. It dropped without warning, no label, no marketing, just a link on her Instagram story. If you're hurting, this is for you. Fans lost it. Critics called it devastatingly honest. Some songs were barely 2 minutes, just a voice, a breath, a piano chord, but they cut deep. Tracks like Not Your Doll and Hotel Lights became Gen Z anthems. She never toured, never promoted, just whispered into the void and let it echo. 2024. Florence delivered what insiders called the performance of the decade, a tortured playwright in a claustrophobic drama about love, addiction, and creativity. Critics were convinced it was her moment. But when nominations dropped, nothing. No Best Actress nod. Not even a mention. The industry was stunned. Florence didn't comment, but those close to her say she cried, quietly, then worked harder. Because Florence had learned, Hollywood doesn't always reward the best. It rewards the loudest. And Florence? She was still learning when to roar. Tabloids got wind of a new love interest. A director, older, European, intellectual. They were spotted at bookstores, sipping wine, walking barefoot on beaches in Greece. But Florence didn't confirm, didn't deny. When asked, she said, "Some things I want to keep sacred." It wasn't a rejection of fame, it was a reclamation of life. After years of living under the lens, Florence was learning to breathe in the margins. While the world watched her on screen, Florence was waging a quieter war against exploitative sets, unsafe working conditions, and the silencing of young actresses. She began producing, quietly at first, funding indie scripts, hiring female directors, insisting on no nudity clauses unless absolutely necessary. In meetings, she was firm. If the role felt male-gazy, she rewrote it. If the pay gap was real, she walked away. She wasn't loud about it. She was surgical, strategic, subtle. Then, a call from a legend, a director known for launching careers. He had one request: Florence, front and center. A psychological thriller, set in the Arctic. One woman, just Florence. Cold, breaking, surviving. She took it. The shoot nearly broke her. Freezing temperatures. Isolation, one crew member said. She went places emotionally that scared us. When the film premiered, the standing ovation lasted 7 minutes. She cried backstage, not because it was over, but because she survived it. By now, she was unstoppable. Florence Pugh had transcended roles, genres, and labels. She was in that rare echelon, like Blanchett, like Streep, where her name was the genre. Fashion adored her, directors chased her, but more than that, women believed in her. They saw themselves in her defiance, her softness, her chaos. And Florence? She never let them down. Then came the announcement no one expected. Florence said she was taking a break, not retiring, not disappearing, just breathing. She wrote, "I've been chasing for years. Now I want to sit, write, sleep, be boring." Fans panicked. Tabloids speculated. But those who really saw her knew it wasn't the end. It was an inhale. And Florence? She was just getting ready for the next scream. Florence disappeared. No red carpets. No Instagram posts. No sightings in L.A. cafes or London pubs. Rumors flew: pregnancy, depression, secret marriage, retirement. But the truth? Florence had gone home, back to Oxfordshire, back to the stone cottages, foggy lanes, and the rhythm of rain on old rooftops. She lived quietly, cooked, gardened, walked her dog, wrote. In her absence, the industry buzzed louder. They missed her, her vulnerability, her fire, her unpredictability. Young actresses filled the gap, but no one was Florence. She had become irreplaceable by leaving. Then came the book, not a memoir, a letter collection, untitled, self-published. 42 handwritten letters to her past selves, to her characters, to lovers unnamed and cities forgotten. Each page was raw. To the girl who cried under the bathtub after your first audition, you were enough. To the man who told me I was too loud in Paris, you will never know silence the way I have. Critics called it a literary gut punch. Young women clutched it like scripture. A generation found themselves in her words. Florence never promoted it, but it became a bestseller anyway. When she resurfaced, it wasn't with a blockbuster. It was theater. Berlin, a tiny venue, 120 seats. A place she wrote herself, one woman, 1 hour. Just grief, silence, and a bathtub full of red carnations. No press, no premieres, just the performance. Tickets sold out in minutes. Kate Blanchett flew in. Tilda Swinton cried in the third row. A critic called it an act of divine intimacy. Florence had returned, not to entertain, but to reclaim. You knew it was coming. A leak, a private email thread. Florence criticizing a major studio's casting choice for a period piece. We don't need another thin, symmetrical face with no rage behind the eyes. The internet split in two. Some praised her. Others called her a diva, a bully out of touch. Florence didn't apologize. She released a voice note. Unfiltered. I stand by my words. I want actresses who burn, not blend. That note was downloaded 2 million times in 24 hours. Florence Pugh had entered her truth era, and she was done apologizing. Her break had unlocked something, and Florence stepped behind the camera for the first time. The film was titled Saltwater, a story about two sisters running a fish and chip shop after their father's death. Gritty, hilarious, heartbreaking. She directed, she wrote, she starred. She cast unknowns. She filmed in freezing coastal winds. She didn't glam it up. She let it rot, let it breathe. At Sundance, people wept. Executives scrambled. She refused 3 distribution deals. Finally, she signed with an indie company, with full creative control. Saltwater became the most streamed indie film of the year. Fans begged for her return to horror. Ari Aster had a new script, darker, wilder, 1 role, 1 woman, 1 descent into madness in a cabin on the Norwegian coast. Florence read it and said, I'm terrified. Let's do it. The film, Echoes in the Fjord, was a sensory nightmare. Long silences, screams that shattered glass. A final scene where Florence collapses into seafoam, whispering to her mother's ghost. Theaters added support hotlines. The Academy didn't dare ignore her this time. By 2026, Hollywood had changed, and Florence had caused the quake. Female-led indies surged. Costume designers cited her as inspiration. Young actresses rejected the glam mold she'd broken. Studios began listening, really listening, to actresses with vision. She had become a genre, an aesthetic, a template for raw and real. At award shows, even the veterans watched her walk in first. It started as a joke, a fan-made event in Brighton screening her films over a weekend. But Florence showed up. She brought beer. She laughed. She cried watching Lady Macbeth with strangers. And when someone asked for an autograph, she wrote, Be loud, even if your voice shakes. The festival became annual. She returned every year, no matter where she was in the world. It wasn't for press. It was for them, the ones who saw her before Hollywood did. Finally, love returned. Not loud, not public, just present. She met him at a reading in New York. A poet, barefoot, bearded, brilliant. They moved in together 6 months later. No wedding, no rings, just whispered poems and lemon trees on the balcony. She never shared his name, but fans saw the glow in her eyes, in her stillness. He didn't tame her, he held her. And as the decade turned, Florence gave one final interview. Her last, she claimed. She said, I've been dissected, idolized, dragged, loved, but I've never been silenced. If you take one thing from my work, let it be this: you are allowed to be too much, too loud, too soft, too weird, be all of it, and never apologize. She smiled, and then she stood, not to leave, but to live. Florence could have basked in her legacy. She didn't. Instead, she started showing up, at theater schools, film sets, writing workshops, not as a guest, as a guide. She taught uncredited master classes under fake names, sat in the back row, listened more than she spoke. She read scripts by unknowns, gave notes, took no credit. To one girl, fresh from drama school, she whispered, "Forget being liked, be felt, that's what lasts." In time, they called her the quiet mentor, not because she was silent, but because she left space for others to speak. Florence had always been political, but now, she was unignorable. She took the stage at climate marches, wrote essays for The Guardian on reproductive rights, exposed unethical studio practices, named names. She didn't tweet, she acted. When a major film festival invited a known abuser, Florence pulled her film, publicly. "We don't need screens if they're stained in silence," she said. Her PR team begged her to soften. Florence refused. She lost sponsorships. She gained a movement. By now, Florence was more than an actress, she was an archetype. Painters painted her. Designers dressed her without even booking her. Young women in South Korea and Brazil and Tunisia got her face tattooed on their arms. In Tokyo, a pop star called her the mother of my rage. In Iceland, a political group used her speech as their anthem. She wasn't just famous, she was cultural currency. Florence remained stunned by it all. "I never wanted to be a statue," she said once. "I wanted to be wind, to move through people, not tower over them." It almost ended. A car accident. Late night. Rain. A truck ran a red light. Florence was in the back seat, asleep. The crash shattered the glass and her ribs. She was in surgery for 5 hours. The world paused. For 3 days, headlines held their breath. But Florence survived. Groggy, bruised, fragile, and changed. She emerged months later, limping but luminous. "Every second now feels like a scream," she said. "I want to scream beautifully." In that same year, Florence's mother fell ill. Cancer. Florence paused everything. No premieres, no projects, just days and nights by a hospital bed. She braided her mother's hair, read her old scripts, played Fleetwood Mac on repeat. When her mother passed, Florence wore black for a year, not as mourning, but as armor. She dedicated her next film to her, a silent, 20-minute short titled Stillness. Just ocean, light, and a woman holding her mother's coat in the wind. It premiered on YouTube, and broke hearts globally. Florence never built an empire of perfume lines or fashion houses, but she built something bigger, a foundation, for actors without agents, for girls silenced by the machine, for filmmakers rejected by studios. She called it Unheard. The tagline? Stories that scream. She funded over 300 short films, 72 indie features, and 90 debut performances. Quietly, without fanfare. She was never the face of it, but she was always the heart. It happened at a nursing home in Glasgow. Florence visited a dying playwright. They'd never met. He had once tweeted, "Florence Pugh saved my soul." She flew in, unannounced, read his last work aloud to him, acted every line with tears and thunder. He died hours later. The nurse who saw it said, "I've seen her films, but that was the greatest performance of her life." She began pulling back, slowly. No more award shows, no interviews, just voice notes, long walks, letters. She said once, "Fame is a mirror that always lies. I don't need it anymore." She chose poetry, gardens, community theater. She taught teenagers Shakespeare in pub basements. People begged her to return to screen. She said, "Maybe one day, but I've said what I needed to say," and they respected her for it. 10 years later, Florence did one last film. A story about a woman who wakes up as a ghost and watches her past unfold through windows. No dialogue, just Florence watching. It was called Glass Bone. When it premiered at Cannes, she didn't attend. But the ending left people shaking. Florence's character steps into the light and vanishes. Just a whisper left behind. "I was here." In film schools, she became a subject. In acting books, a method. In hearts, a lighthouse. Florence Pugh didn't burn out. She burned through the industry, the noise, the doubt, until all that was left was truth. She wasn't flawless. She wasn't always right. But she was real. And in a world of masks, Florence Pugh was a face that never flinched. By the 2040s, a generation of actors credited Florence as their reason for entering the craft. Young stars began citing not Brando, not Streep, but Pugh. Her methods were studied in acting academies. Her interviews became source texts. Her style, raw, aching, unapologetic, was everywhere. But it wasn't imitation. It was permission. She had given them that. The audacity to feel everything, and the courage to never make it pretty. Part 52. The girl who made ugly beautiful. Florence once said, I never wanted to be the most beautiful woman in the room. I wanted to be the most human. She played women with scars, with rage, with food in their teeth and dirt on their nails. Hollywood fought her, but audiences loved her, because in Florence they saw themselves, not a fantasy, but a mirror. She made ugliness sacred, and in doing so, redefined beauty. Despite offers of mansions in Beverly Hills and villas in Tuscany, Florence remained in a modest stone house in Oxfordshire. Wooden floors, a crooked garden gate, a kitchen that smelled of time and old books. Locals saw her often, in line at the bakery, in the back pew at church, laughing too loud in bookstores. To them, she wasn't Florence Pugh, Oscar winner, she was Flo, and she loved that more. One day, without announcement, Florence opened her personal archive to the public. Letters, scripts, voice memos, behind-the-scenes photos, the dreams and drafts of a lifetime. She called it the archive room, a small building on her property. Anyone could walk in, touch the notebooks, hear her raw thoughts, read her abandoned scenes. It's not a museum, she said. It's a conversation I never finished. People came from all over the world, not to gawk, to listen. Friends spoke years later of the Florence few got to see, the one who made soup for grieving neighbors, who showed up at strangers' funerals, who wrote poems for every baby born on her street. One neighbor said, she wasn't trying to impress the world anymore. She was just loving the small things better than anyone else ever could. In the quietest ways, she became more felt than ever. Near the end, Florence wrote a letter. To everyone who ever saw me, not just watched, but saw, thank you. I am not the light. I am the crack that let it in. Keep cracking. Keep letting it in. Love always, Florence. She mailed it to thousands of fans, hand-signed. No PR, no explanation. It arrived on a rainy Thursday, and the world stopped for a breath. Her final public appearance was not at an award show, but a youth theater in Manchester. The kids didn't know she was coming. She walked on stage mid-rehearsal, said nothing, and simply joined, played the role of a tree. When asked why, she smiled. It was the only part left. That night she left her scarf on the coat rack. They never moved it again. Florence passed in her sleep, peacefully, no fanfare, just the whisper of wind through open windows. The world mourned, not with silence, but with song. Theaters dimmed their lights. Young actresses wore carnations. Fans reread her letters. Her films streamed across every screen. But more than anything, people felt her absence, not as a void, as a pulse. She had moved through them, and now, she remained inside them. Years passed, and yet Florence's presence only deepened. A scholarship in her name launched thousands of careers. Her films became part of school curriculums. Her words etched into mirrors, notebooks, the margins of diaries. She became less of a celebrity, more of a language. The way a person clutched their chest after a scene? They called it the Pugh effect. She was no longer a woman. She was feeling, incarnate. She never sought the spotlight. She danced in shadows, cried in kitchens, bled on screen and bloomed in gardens. Florence Pugh was not made for immortality. She earned it, through truth, through audacity, through being unflinchingly herself. She showed a generation that you didn't have to be perfect to matter. You just had to be real. And in the end, when her name was whispered on stages, in bedrooms, in cinema halls, it wasn't fame they remembered. It was Florence, and Florence was love.